If you were to hop onto YouTube and search how to get better at Rocket League, you'd probably end up getting a ton of useful information on that exact topic. I do know this from experience since I've done the same thing after a solid night of D-ranking while in solo queue, but I have always noticed a distinct lack of a certain topic being talked about, and I imagine that it's for good reason. It has the advantages of being easy to learn, very effective when done correctly, and staying useful through every single rank. With all this being the case, I just couldn't keep the secret to myself anymore, so today I'm going to be covering one of the most OP skills in Rocket League, passing. In this video, I'm going to be covering why passing is so good, a few plays that I personally like to use, and some more general tips for becoming a better passer in your own ranked games. Be sure to stick around until the end, and maybe even drop a sub if you learn anything new. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Before we cover a bunch of different passing types, I first want to talk about why passing is such a good skill to have. The biggest benefit is how difficult it makes defending the net for your opponents. If you've ever been on the receiving end of a passing play, then you probably know how hard it is to predict where the shooter is going to place their shot. When a solo shot is put on net, you have the luxury of being able to see how your opponent is approaching the ball, which could help with guessing the placement of their hit. For example, if you see the shooter's car going wide to the left of the ball, which for them would be to the right, they're most likely going to try to shoot the ball towards their left in hopes of shooting behind or above you. But when a fast passing play is happening close to your net, most times the defender isn't even able to see the person receiving the pass as they're getting close to the ball, which does allow them to shoot pretty much wherever they want. This strategy is best used whenever you're close to the opponent's net because the further away that you shoot the ball, the more time the other team has to react to your shot. Being able to do quick infield passes for easy goals isn't the only advantage that passing brings you though. There's also the fact that passing can relieve a lot of the pressure that the enemy team is trying to place if used correctly. For example, if your team is currently being boost starved and you get a chance to either dribble or boom the ball upfield to your teammate that's grabbing boost, the boomer is by far the much better option. Plenty more reasons for learning this skill, but the final one that I'll touch on is, in my experience, as soon as you send that first pass off to a solo queue teammate and they realize that you intentionally pass the ball to them, they always seem to want to return the favor. There's even been times where I've messed up and caused a teammate to be tilted, but by trying to set up a nice passing play with them, they seemingly get out of the rut that they were in. This means that passing is a great way to build up trust with your team, and maybe even a way to de-tilt someone going through a bad gaming sesh. Now that we know why passing is so good, we can cover a few different types that I like to use, and then we'll move on to some more general tips for being a better passer. First, we have the one that most people probably think of when they think of passing plays, which is slamming the ball directly towards your teammate. You mostly see these passes if a teammate is going upfield to grab boost, or whenever you want to cross a pass sideways for an infield passing play. These don't include any hits off of the wall, and usually don't get a ton of height on them since that would give opponents time to get up to the ball, but you definitely can get height on it if a boomer is needed. The only downside to them is that the play that you and your team are trying to set up could be obvious to the opponents if done consecutively, and they may change their positioning in order to counter. If you find yourself in your opponent's half with the ball while needing to get it to safety, but your teammate is all the way back on your own side of the field getting boost, it shouldn't be a problem if you use a back pass. These are usually more on the speedy side since you don't want the opponents to catch up to the ball, but also usually rolled along the ground so that the receiver can pop the ball up high to go for an aerial play. They can be risky if done close to a defender that catches on to the play, but I still recommend learning them since they are a great way of holding on to possession. Onto one of the better passing types, and probably my personal favorite, infield passes. These are done whenever you are driving down the sides of the stadium and you have a teammate hanging around midfield that you can slap the ball sideways towards. You can lob these passes a little bit in the air, but for the most part they are intended to be a faster play since you're usually closer to the net, so rolling the ball quickly towards your teammate will prevent them from having to pre-jump your pass. The next pass that you can use is one that uses the corners and the walls of the stadium. My go-to scenario for implementing these is whenever I'm in the opponent's corner and the ball has a slight bounce to it. By slamming the ball into a specific part of the wall that curves, you can get a nice little bounce towards the middle of the field for your teammates to hopefully slot into the net. You can also use the opponent's backboard for this type of pass. I like to use the backboard whenever I notice that the enemy team has defenders in net because a lot of the times they will pre-jump or panic since they think you're about to shoot towards their net. If this happens, then the net should be wide open for your teammates. Want a pass that you don't have to pull off yourself? I've got you covered. You'll mostly want to be in a party for pulling this off since not everyone plays with chat on to see your callouts, But if you are in the straight kickoff with your teammate behind you, then you can attempt a fake kickoff to force the opponent to do the passing for you. I mostly like to try to lob these in the air and also closer to the middle of the field, but slightly shifted towards the side that my teammate is on. This should give them lots of space in the air to adjust if needed, but also time to build up speed to reach the ball, which results in a more powerful shot. The final passing type that I'm going to cover is the one where all you have to do is get a quick touch around your opponents, since you know that your team will be there to finish up the play. Now this situation doesn't pop up a ton, I'll admit, but one place it does happen is straight off of kickoffs. If the ball gets popped high into the air and you notice that your opponent is jumping for it at the same time as you, then all you have to do now is try to ensure that you can beat them there and then just pop the ball around them. It doesn't matter how accurate these passes are, since the main thing your teammate has to do is just clean up wherever the ball lands. Even though these situations happen more for kickoffs, they still absolutely pop up in the middle of games as well. This could happen if you outplay the first defender and all you have left is one more to go and the last one starts to challenge you. Once you see this, a quick little tap around them in any direction should guarantee a goal for your teammate. So far we've covered why you should pass, as well as a few different types that you can use, but what makes someone a good passer overall? The key to hitting the ideal pass is being able to read what type would be best for the person you're hitting the ball to. If you happen to know that they're working with small amounts of boost, then you know that you probably don't want to send a high pass that requires a big aerial to reach. If you're driving down either side of the field and notice that your team is matching your pace but off towards the middle of the field, you know that it's time for an infield passing play. Being able to read the situation that your teammates are going to be ready for will help you make successful plays and cut down on the amount of times possession is given away for free. My next tip is make sure that you're leading your passes rather than slapping the ball directly at your teammate's car. Hitting the ball ahead of where your team will be gives them the chance to use boost in order to gather speed to reach the ball, which also results in them being able to shoot the ball harder. The more boost they have, the further away that you can lead the ball, but be sure to keep an eye out for any defenders lurking in the pass path, because they definitely won't hesitate to cut your play off. If the ball is hit directly towards your team's car, they will have to either stop completely or at the least slow down, which will limit the choices they have for shooting the ball. Essentially, you want to ensure that the receiver of your pass can at the very minimum maintain the momentum that they currently have, but ideally increase it with a well-led pass. The next tip that I have is knowing when to fake the pass. Most of the time, you only get one chance for a passing play to happen without your opponents being aware of it, and then after that, they're most likely going to be on the lookout for whenever you and your team are setting up in similar ways. This is one downside to passes, but luckily it can be an advantage as well. If my opponent is trying to preemptively cut off a passing play by lurking close to my teammate, I try to continue acting like I'm going to pass still in order to keep everyone looking towards my teammate. If done correctly, this should keep a decent amount of space open for yourself to dribble in, and you can take an easy shot on net. Whenever this is happening, you know that you have your opponents worried about your passing ability, which means that they have to focus more on stopping your plays rather than scoring on you. Becoming better at passing and not relying so heavily on solo plays is one of the best things that someone that's trying to rank up can do. Unless you're just an insane 1v1 main that can outplay 2 to 3 opponents every game for the entire match, this skill will benefit you no matter how high the rank. Now, whether or not your team will even know to look for a pass in the lower ranks is another story, but eventually they'll be looking. I really hope you guys were able to learn some new stuff today, and if you'd like more tutorial type videos like this for 3D Rocket League in the future, please be sure to let me know down below. That is going to go ahead and do it for now though, so I'll talk to all you guys in the next one. See ya!